yarn lovers, it's Gary and I'm coming to you from Vancouver, Canada. So welcome. Today is Monday, June 15th, 2020, and this is video number 59. So a week has gone by since I uploaded my last podcast, and I have a few things to talk about, a few things to show, and I'm happy to say that one of the labors of love and I would say frustration, my chevron blanket is completed. I do have some ends to weave in. When I say some, I'm probably going to be weaving in ends for about 6 hours on this lovely, beautiful blanket. And then I'm going to wash it and showcase it in the next episode. But I'm happy to report that that is done. And I also have another 2 finished objects that I'm going to showcase in this particular episode, and 2 that I just started or have been working on since the last podcast. As you can tell from the introduction with the sneak peek of the dyed yarn that I had done, I have a whole bunch of dyed yarn that I did on Friday, so I want to showcase that, and it all was spurred on by KnitCrate. So I got the month of KnitCrate, the May month, so that's May 2020, and it was called the blank canvas. I did not use the Kool-Aid packages that were added into that, I guess that pack that came to us. And I used some of my own because I wanted the richer colors, I wanted deeper colors, and I got the cherry red and the orange Kool-Aid packages, and I had just completed doing a whole bunch of scarlet red and orange colorways in my last dye up, so I wanted to switch it up to make it interesting for myself. So I've got some things to showcase there, and I have a little bit of a clip that I have for some of the process involved, and I'd like to just cut those in when I start talking about the dye process that I went through to achieve these skeins that I'm going to show you. So if you're new to this channel and you're thinking, what's all this about? Hi, my name is Gary. I'm the host of Urban Yarn, and welcome. I hope that you will sit back and enjoy the content that I present, and if you do enjoy it, please think about giving me a thumbs up and subscribing and joining in amongst our fiber community that are growing here in Urban Yarn. So, and to those who are returning, welcome back. I've noticed that there are a few newcomers and new comments that I've been reading as well, so I really love those. Thank you to all the people who have been with me for a while, and I enjoy all of the advice and wealth of wisdom that you share with me, because I do go headstrong into projects, not thinking a lot before, so I kind of come up to problems, whether they be in patterns or whether they be in technique, or maybe using a yarn that I've never used before. So I really appreciate that communication that we have amongst each other in this little community. So thank you for that. So without further ado, let's jump into the first finished object that I'm going to showcase is what I call the hybrid beanie. So it is on this little modeled head, which I find that she has a smaller head than me. I don't know whether this is a good representation of a true adult kind of head shape, but I did do the hybrid quite snug for me, and it just looks like this little model is swimming in it, but it is a nice snug fit for an average size head. And what I had done was I did a 3x2 ribbing in knit. I used an I-cord bind off, and then when I cast off the rest of the ribbing, so it was like one large circular of ribbing with no crown, I then picked up stitches with the crochet hook and started crocheting the top part of the hat. And I used 2 different styles of yarn, one being this darker purple color here, and that was a yarn, a DK weight yarn that I had got from Ancient Arts Yarn, and the colorway was called Beaujolais Nouveau, and the watercolor washi yarn here was one that I hand dyed myself. So I bought a bare yarn from Knit Picks, and it was in their Stroll Sport collection, so it was a sport weight, and it created this lovely backdrop for these corduroy ridges in the darker purple to sit on. So I really enjoyed that, and I single crocheted around. This doesn't have a pattern. This hybrid beanie is one that I just concocted up because I liked the idea of the I-cord. I put some of my favorite things together, a washi yarn with a more vibrant rich yarn. So some of my favorite things that I wanted to add into this make. It uses a hexagon 6-sided decrease, and that decrease didn't happen until I believe it was maybe around 4 inches of fabric that I had made up of the corrugated pattern, and then I began decreasing for the crown. So really lovely stretchy fabric. It is a snugger fit beanie, and very comfortable. So I love the decrease as well in this hexagon color, pattern. The next finished object is a knitted object. It's called the Simple Crescent Shawl from Red Heart. And Red Heart has this as a free pattern. I'll link it down below. I actually discovered this pattern on the inside of the ball band, and this is how it worked up. I showcased half of this in my last podcast. So it does sort of scoop up, as the name suggests, into a crescent. It has lovely little eyelets as throughout the border. It's a simple stockinette. Sorry, it's a simple garter stitch. God, get it right, Gary. And the colors, I would say, what I really liked about the color changes was in this larger section here, where the colors weren't long enough to complete the whole row. So you have lots of switch ups here, and further where I started the make starts at this side here. The colors were going back and forth in shorter spurts, so I got thicker bands of coloring there. But I really like the fact when you get into the 100, 200 kind of like stitch length on this shawl, you're actually seeing that the bands are just single rows, and sometimes not even a single full row, that they switch up halfway through. I liked that treatment. So the yarn is called Hopscotch, and the colorway of this yarn is called Kickbox. It uses 2 skeins. I went up a size in needles, so the pattern calls for a 5mm set of knitting needles. I would suggest using a 36-inch to 42-inch set of circular knitting needles, just so that you have a full range to accommodate all of the stitches. I think there's 186 or something stitches on it at the end of the shawl. And yeah, so I didn't quite have enough. Funny thing was, second last row to completing this, so I was still needed yarn for the bind off, and I ran out of yarn because I used larger needles. So, but where the yarn did run out was the perfect place, because I could bind off in a different color, and it meant that my edging was all the same color through all the 286 stitches. There was no variegation of the color in the edging, and I had used loops and threads. I want to call it some sort of jean washi type yarn, but I can't remember what the name of the yarn was. But let's try this on so that you can see how it sits. What I've heard about the crescent shaped shawls is that they sit nicer on your body because naturally they have that curve, and when you're kind of wearing a straight scarf or shawl, you have problems with the shawl wanting to slip off, or if it's not on your body perfectly, it will start unraveling. With the crescent shawl, you have more of a chance of, I'll just get up and show you, that it stays on because it does have that natural hug. It's almost like two arms hugging you. So yeah, I really liked how that turned out. Very squishy and cushy and comfortable and not itchy at all. So no undergarments required when you make this one up using the hopscotch yarn. So the next thing that I'll showcase are the works in progress. So I showed this off in the last video, and it's the Stephen West Drangey Pullover, and I'm starting it from the neck down, so it's the top to bottom sweater, and it's built up in the round, and it's a raglan style jumper or pullover, and I've done probably another 6 or 7 ridges. So each ridge, well, without giving too much away because it's a paid for pattern, consists of, I don't know, maybe an inch of knitting. So or half an inch. So I've done maybe about 2 inches of extra ridge work. And the yarn that I'm using for that one is Noro yarn, and that's what it looks like. The colorway is called, well, it has a number and a name, Labyrinth, and the number is 7 in the Kotori collection. So Kotori spelled Kotori, Kotori. And I'm pairing it with color B, which is the contrast color. It's this ice yarn that I got a pack of, I think 8 in this turquoise colorway, and it is from their, I want to say it's Jacquard, and I think that this sits in their website under the winter yarn. So if you're looking for this one in particular, they have lots of colors. I believe from memory there were like 30 to 40 colors in this Jacquard collection. And that one is a wool acrylic base, and this one is a wool, silk, and viscose base. So that has like a couple of natural fibers in it. Really enjoying that make. It's for a knit-along that I'm joining. So the knit-along is with needles at the ready, and I'll include that knit-along down below. It's a theme base that they have brained up, which is an amazing idea, called Let's Hear It for the Boys. And yeah, so if you're interested in joining, the link will have the details on the theme and some of the, I guess, the objectives of the knit-along. And yeah, so it's a really neat theme. I like it a lot. The next project that I have on the go is a crocheted project, and it is this long narrow scarf that I'm doing on the bias, and I fell in love as soon as I did, I think, about 2 inches of this. I knew that this yarn was gonna work up brilliantly for a scarf. I'll tell you a little bit about what I was doing with this. I was following a pattern which is called the XY scarf, and it's Johanna Lindahl, and she's from Muji Crochet. And so this designer had designed the Dragon Ballet shawl as well, but I really like her design, so I wanted to try the XY scarf. So I started with doing the XY scarf, and from this point I began. And when I got to around here, I noticed that the fabric was kind of a dense corduroy fabric, and I thought to myself that it wouldn't be, you know, I guess a good candidate for a triangular shawl or scarf. So I wanted to do a like a narrower scarf, so more of a rectangular shape. So here I got to this point here, and then I started doing my decreases to to stop the point continually like growing, and I'm doing that all the way through. And what I'm thinking of doing is, I really liked, one of the other reason why I chose not to go further into the pattern was because I was liking the way that the colors were alternating within a small narrow section. So it may be lost when that kind of color work may have been lost if I was to stretch the yarn further down into a larger triangle shape. So I really liked the way that it was like, oh yes, I totally completed this whole spans with this rusty kind of like orange, and had I have not had I have continued on, I would have had a lot of different changes throughout the rectangle, the triangle as well. So that's one reason why I chose to keep it narrow. Now, when I get to the length of scarf that I am happy with, I'm thinking of doing something different with this fabric. I'm thinking of maybe doing the bias, like turning the work and using the spine here and creating another bias here, which is the opposing angle, and creating a chevron that way. So I can then enjoy those short spurts of color changes, but have a thicker fabric about this thick with chevron patterns. I could change up the yarn as well to a different color going up the other side of this piece here. So a little bit about the yarn. I'm using these three. So intermittently, I'm kind of like switching them out. If I want like more dramatic lines, I'll choose the end one here, which is the beigey color or brown tan color, and then alternate with one of these two. If I'm wanting the colors to kind of blend in and out, more of a chromatic change up, it would be these two here. So this is Ferris Wheel, and it is in the colorway Buttercup. This one here is Spun Colors in the colorway Millard. And this last one here is from hobium.com, their Kartopu collection in the Natural Angora. And you'll notice that this weight is a little different from the other two. This is 3, this is 4 in the middle, and this one here is 2. So what I'm doing is I'm doubling up the 2 weight yarn. Yeah, I'm doubling it up so that they all kind of like meet somewhere in the middle, rather than having all different types of yarn weights together in the fabric. But it is, I am dealing with 2 roving yarns in that one. The Ferris Wheel and the Spun Colors are both roving yarns. So they do go through the gamma ray of like a 2 weight, 3 weight, 4 weight, and only ever so often with the Spun Colors it goes into a 5 weight, but very, very, very fine 5 weight. So super enjoying that. I love the technique of this wash feel that it's giving me, like a more antique-y feel. So yeah, and it's going to be a scarf. Yeah, it's a little itchy because of the Angora Natural, but love that. Kind of reminds me of a tie for some reason. I don't know. I could make a tie out of it too. And so now, those are all the finished projects and my works in progress, and my chevron blanket, which needs its ends tied in and washing before I showcase that in the next episode. So, but I'm happy that it's done. Yay for the chevron blanket. I'm gonna move now into the dye that I did on Friday. I've got some clips to share with you, and what I'll do is I'll insert a little bit of an intentions clip here that I began on Friday morning, laying out all the bare yarn that I had, including the knit picks, which was May's knit picks, May 2020, called the Blank Canvas. So you'll see that in the intentions as well. And yeah, so I'll be back to show you some of the results afterwards. Hey there, yarn lovers. On this grey and wet Vancouver day, I am coming to you to just showcase a few things here on my workbench that I'm thinking of planning to dye and present in a future episode. So here we have the May 2020 KnitCrate, which was called the Blank Canvas, and this is the fingering weights 100% superwash merino with the Kool-Aid packages in cherry red and orange. Not too sure I'm going to go that route. I am really liking the idea of using these colors up here from RIT, and it is the purple, the fuchsia, and a pearl gray color. So I'm looking at maybe using those instead. And I thought I would get a little bit more drama out of this hank here, which had the like a blue purple that I had added with my food dye in one of the last experiments, and I'm thinking of adding a bit of black into that just to, I don't know, get some more drama in it. And then a hank of Patons, which is what this was anyway in the beginning, and I'm gonna dye this one and see what I can get out of a new experiment. Then I used the KnitCrate's discount for dye supplier, and I purchased 10 of these hanks that I'm thinking of making a little bit of a pack and like a colorway that will be used together, maybe in a wrap, like a shawl or something like that. So it will be a pack of colors that will relate to one another, and in that I'm thinking of doing again purple, some royal blue, black, and having a contrast in that series in a like an olive green or a fluorescent yellow or fluorescent highlighter kind of yellow to green. So the content of this one is 25 nylon and 75 superwash merino, and that is also in a fingering weight. I'm also going to be trying, if I have time, to over dye this yarn here, which is 100% wool, and it's from a Alberta mill called Custom Woolen Mills, and it's a 2-ply, so it is a 4-weight, so it's a little thicker, but I love the twist on that one. So we'll see how that works up. I may be adding in some of the food dye as well, which I had left over from the last experiment. And here I've got a denim blue and a golden yellow that I'm going to try out as well. And last but not least is this Kartopu natural, Angora natural, which I will attempt to over dye. I had some interesting results with a beige one that I had used, but this one's kind of like a powdery blue to begin with. And yeah, I'm not too sure what I'm going to put on that, but if I have time I might add that into the cook up as well. Okay, tray one that I'm doing is a combination of dye lots that I had done in a previous experiment, and here we have the Patons one, which is the Patons Classic Worsted that I had over dyed with purple and blue, and I'm going to be putting some black on this one. So that's going to go into the tray beside these two here, which is part of the Patons Denim-y in the colorway Tangerine, and I had done a little bit of black on this in a previous dye experiment. I'm just going to put that back into the tray as well, and I'm going to do a heavy dose of purple and see how we go with the change up in the color. So yeah. Okay, so unfortunately I don't have a tripod to set up to show you what I just did with the dye, but I had concocted a black and purple concoction in liquid form and poured it over into sections like such, and it's sort of bleeding out as it's cooking here on the stove. And this is tray number one. So again, those were the two Patons Denim-y, which was in the tangerine colorway, and this one down here was the Patent Classic Worsted, which I'm just trying to get a little bit more life into with blacks and dark purples. So there was a little bit of green that I sprinkled in on top here and there, and I'm just going to let it sit for 15 minutes, just bubbling away under the foil. And what I'll do is then I'll turn it around to see what is going on the other side of the skeins, and perhaps maybe re-pour where I feel that the dye did not go on the yarn, and also sprinkle a little bit more green on the other side as well. So a little bit of a process there, and I'll show you at the rinse what this tray 1 looks like. And I've just rinsed them out. There was a little bit of bleed off, which was expected because I guess the Denim-y isn't a full 100% wool. It does have a percentage of cotton and acrylic in it as well, but look at the colors. They just came out awesome. So we have berry colors in this batch, and the tangerine that was on this particular skein here does come through a little bit, which is a lovely effect. But I really like the dark purple black mixture that I had put in there. So as you can see, it still needs a little bit of washing. Okay, so those were the intentions. I also had a little clip in there of showcasing what my first tray that I had in my little experiment was looking like, and I want to showcase the end results in that one. Now, just a little bit of a tidbit here on the process of my dyeing. I had all intentions to showcase every tray and every stage, but by the time that I got past, say, the second or third tray, I was like done with dirty hands, with wet, everything was wet, and I had dye everywhere, so it was hard for me to hover with a camera and hold it with one hand. I don't have a tripod, so yeah, the setup in the kitchen isn't ideal, so I kind of gave up on like doing all of the intended clips that I wanted to add in. But tray 1 was these yarns here. So originally the pattern's Denim-y, and it's a woven spun yarn, and it was originally in a tangerine colorway, so it was white. Oh, I can actually show you here. I have it. Originally it was this, and I had changed it to variegated berry colors, so purples, blacks, the tangerine did come through, fuchsia, jeans, denim ink yarn, sorry, get it right Gary, a denim colored dye that I put in as well. So really love that. I had 4 hanks altogether, and I've unraveled one so that you can see a little bit about what it looks like when it's in its state when it's not hanked up. So we have, it's a little sticky, the yarn. It's like kind of, I would say, felted a little bit. But the nature of the yarn to begin with was a little bit felted anyway. But this is the colors. So really interesting structure yarn here. They have a cotton mesh that's sort of, it's what they call the woven, I think the woven strand, and they blast the wool around the cotton. So yeah, in some places the dye didn't meet the cotton's expectations, I guess, of bonding. So you get the natural cotton coming out below, and inside the cotton there's some yarn as well, like a different fiber, and in some places it dyes that. So you have the mesh being pretty uninterrupted with the dye, and then you have the color inside that mesh dyeing, and then likewise the dye happens on the outside. So really interesting yarn to dye up. So I got 4 hanks of that. The next one was, I guess my clips were tray 2, and I got these. I'll show the blown out version, so the camera blows it out as it gets closer. So you can see all the variegated color in there. And then I'll pull it back so you can see what it really looks like. So it's almost this chocolatey brown black color. And what I had done with these two, I believe this is almost a 5, bulky 5. Yeah, it's a little thicker than 4. And it's 100% wool from a Alberta mill, and it's called the Woolen Co. Yeah, the Woolen Co. And what I had done with this one was I soaked it in a dye pot of the fluorescent yellow and golden yellow to get a nice warm base to begin with. And then I stuck it in the pan, and I put on it the black from RIT, and I also had another black as well from the iDye series. And I'll link the iDye series to as an alternative for dyeing up yarn as well. So what I found with the black from RIT was that the chunks of black did not dissolve very well in water. So when I washed it out, and I noticed the black chips of dye were actually floating on top of in the pan when I was using it. So I switched up and I used the iDye, which is a finer powder-based dye, and that seemed to disperse best in the water. When I did the rinse off as well, I noticed that the RIT black was also coming out of the dye in the chunks, so it wasn't really dissolving well. So really like these. I've got another couple of hanks that are more of a grey marl kind of heather looking base. So I'm going to do some color work with these. These are itchy because they're full wool, a very rustic feel. So you will need to put some undergarments unless you have tough skin. So I'm thinking of doing something, maybe some top work in this, like a sweater and yeah, so that's that one. This was a mop-up of, I believe, at that point when I pulled those two hanks out, I mopped it up with a dry hank of Peyton's Classic Worsted, and I mopped up some of the lovely warm colors that were in there, as well as the grays. So that's that hank. I'm finding that I kind of need a few more of the gray neutral colors or muted colors or smoky colors to break up the bright colors and intense colors that I have in my stash right now. So I think the mop-ups are great because they give you a nice surprise at the end, because the colors are kind of mixing together, making browns or making grays or making some sort of like different hues that you wouldn't get from the straight color that I'm using from the package. So those are those ones. The next one I did was I wanted to zhuzh up, I should say. I don't know what the word is, but I wanted to kind of like add to the depth of change with this hank here. It was originally done with purple and cobalt blue, I think. So we have two colors that we're blending in the original dye up of this yarn, and this is also Peyton's Classic Worsted. But I wanted to add this one back in to add like a navy blue as well as black. So I got additional 4 colors within that hank, and that worked up really rich. I love this a lot. It's going to be a great, I'm going to say hat, slouchy hat would be great in this, maybe some color work. So that's that one. And also following that, I had purchased and received some of the dye supplier yarn, which is KnitCrate's yarn. And I had done my own advent, which you would have seen in the intentions video. Talk about creating a little bit of an advent yarn pack. And I'll go through I teased this in the intro of this episode, but I'll go through the different colors that I achieved for the pack. And this is the first one here. I'm going to name them colorways, and I'll see whether you can guess the theme. This one's called Arena. Arena is lovely dark blues, like almost this indigo color blue, denim blue, and greens, and it has this brown as well down here, like a mahogany brown or chestnut brown. Love that. So that's Arena. Then we have this one here, which is in the colorway I'm calling the Master of Ceremonies. It has lovely speckles here of fuchsia. It has a little bit of the bare yarn, which has a little tinge there of the pink that's coming from, or the purple that's coming from the fuchsia. And it's blending with this color here. So we've got darker purples and darker blues. Absolutely love that one. Then we have this one here, and I'm calling this one the Capital. I think you're getting it now, right? So this one has lovely copper tones. We have tans, golds. We have a nice burnt toasty effect here with a little bit of speckling in black and gray. So yeah, that's the Capital. And the last one, you'll absolutely guess the theme. This one here is reds and yellows, and again that tan, that golden color, and speckles again in the black and charcoal. Sorry, that's the chestnut brown. This is called Girl on Fire. So did you guess it? Okay, me and hubby were at home last week and we watched the Hunger Games. So when I got into the kitchen, I was like, I'm gonna do a little bit of a colorway choice and make a pack for the Hunger Games. So these are them. Absolutely love it. I'm not too sure what I'm gonna work up with it and what kind of arrangement of order I'm gonna do them. So I could alternate between these colorways, not too sure. It's gonna be very bright, very playful, very rich. So it is a fingering weight yarn, so if I choose to make a fabric, I'm gonna try and get like a drapey feel to it. Maybe it might be a nice shawl or a blanket or a wrap. So I did them in a couple of batches. So I have 2 of the Capital. I have 2 of the Girl on Fire. I have 2 in the Master of Ceremonies. And because I love green so much, I have 4 of the Arena. So yeah, look how different they look depending on like how they're hanged up. So absolutely, absolutely love those. So that's my little dye up experiment that I had completed on Friday, and I'm so thrilled with the results. Absolutely love them. And a little bit about KnitCrate. I suspended my KnitCrate for a little bit of an inspection, I'm gonna call it. So I'm gonna look at every month, and it's gonna be a spoiler for me because the mystery will be then, I guess, eradicated from the whole process of the KnitCrate for me. But I'm going to be looking at the spoilers, and personally I won't be talking about it on my podcast because a lot of people enjoy the surprise and mystery. But for me, I'm going to be joining or activating the month of at the time when I see that the yarn is something that I want to actually pay the money for. And I think that's only because of the bare yarn having been a lesser value of what we had paid for. So yeah, I think that's the way I'm going to work it for a little while until I can feel confident that I'm happy to receive the mystery again. And yeah, so I guess that's the way I'm working with it, and I feel that that will be my way of being assured and getting confidence back into KnitCrate, because it's all about like customer service and quality and value for me. And maybe the mark has not been met because of the COVID virus that's going around. So there's been a downplay on the way that it's packaged, the way that it's delivered. There's also problems with like patterns, that you have to do this extra work, and sometimes you have to pay for patterns. So thinking that my confidence will be boosted once we all get through this part. And so I'm going to be doing a bit of spoiler for myself and making sure that I'm doing a bit of quality control along the way, activating it when I see something that I like. So that's it for the week. I hope you've all had a great week and you've enjoyed the content. I keep looking down because I have so much color around me right now, and I can't wait to start using some of this yarn. And stay safe and stay happy, and I will see you in the next podcast. Thanks for watching, subscribing, liking the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.